Of course, they fetishize us. It's like we're breaking the laws of physics, I think, for a lot of people. And while I agree with you that we should be in a position to demand respect, I think that the fact that we're being fetishized puts us in an incredibly powerful position. And if we're comfortable with it, if we have the sound bites to armor ourselves to kind of know what questions they're going to ask and have answers that are ready that are honest enough to get the points across that we want to get across, I think that it makes sense for us to go with it and not to resist it. Even though, well, I think eventually it is good to teach people how to be respectful, but I think that there's really something to be gained for accepting, sort of like lying back and accepting that kind of questioning. And it gets to me with the reasons why people would ask those sorts of questions. Put yourself in the position of this interviewer, in the position of this sexual person talking to an asexual person. And for your whole life, you've thought that sex is just something that everyone feels. And because sex is something that everyone feels, and sex is something that everyone feels in kind of the same way or kind of the same level of intensity, not having sex it's been safe to label a certain way. Not having sex has been universally a bad thing. It's been universally something to be afraid of, even terrified of. I think that for a lot of sexual people, at least kind of based on the culture, as I take it in, not having sex means not forming a relationship. It means not getting in touch with yourself and your body. It means not being happy. It means a lot of things that are really, really scary. And if someone comes along saying that they can just do that and they can be happy doing that, then at the very least that's going to be challenging. And at the very least you're going to need to take a much closer look before you're willing to believe essentially that there's some of the fundamental rules of the world that you've believed in are no longer valid. It's like, like if you saw a car floating along on the street. Maybe that's a bit too extreme, but people want to know how we tick because it's playing on a worldview that's very fundamental to them, and because of that, because not having sex is something that I think people are so deeply afraid of, it's vital for us to be unafraid of it. It's vital for us to show that we're happy and that there really isn't anything to be afraid of. And I think that in some ways that's the most radical thing we can do in that situation. So if someone comes to us and they say, you're asexual, how do you feel about it? Do you form relationships? Do you masturbate? If we push back and we say, those aren't respectful questions, I don't want to answer them, then while I think that's a perfectly legitimate thing to do because they're not respectful questions, I think that it creates distance. And in my experience having those conversations, accepting the question and showing that you can answer it and not be afraid, showing that you can be comfortable enough with yourself and not afraid of yourself as a non-sexual person or as an asexual person, showing that you can be comfortable enough to answer those questions makes it that much more powerful. And as you can, as you see on The View and on Montel, it makes the people asking the questions look ridiculous, and it makes us look good, which is nice. But I think it plays on a subtler level as well. And being in the position of challenging that fear, being in the position of saying, you know what, you don't need to be terrified of not having sex, and here's what it looks like here's an image of not having sex that is something that you don't need to be afraid of. I think that's a powerful place that we're in. And to some extent, we have to go with those sorts of questions in order to be here. And you make a good point too about alternative media, about how we can be asking our own questions, we can be putting out our own message on the internet. I think we should be, but I also think we should be engaging the mainstream press, because that dynamic, that dynamic of calling us out, sort of as an example that challenges this sexual worldview and the kind of fear that is caught up in it. I think that is something that a lot of people want to see happen. That's part of why we've gotten so much press, is people want to have us challenge that fear. And I think that we have everything to gain by challenging it.